Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. The case that I'm going to be looking into today is the unsolved murder of Amber Hagerman. Now, if you guys don't actually know, this case was where the Amber Alert came from, so it was quite an interesting case to look into. I'd just like to let you know, I mean no disrespect to anyone I'm going to talk about today. I've just gathered this information from the internet and compiled it into a video for educational purposes. Amber Hagerman was born on the 25th of November in 1986 in Arlington, Texas, to parents Donna and Ricky. She also had a younger brother who was also called Ricky. Her grandparents also lived very, very close by too. Amber was just this lovely little girl. She enjoyed doing things that typical little girls do at that age, playing with her Barbies, playing with her bike, and just really loving life at the age of 9. She was also very clever and did really well in schools and got straight A's. On the 13th of January in 1996, once more, Amber was at the age of 9, and her parents had gone round to the grandmother's house. She decided, along with her 5-year-old little brother Ricky, that they wanted to go play out. So they asked if she could go and play out on a new bike, which she'd not had that long actually. I believe she got it for Christmas, so it was fairly new and she wanted to go out on it. And they agreed, but told her not to go far. It was a really beautiful day for a winter's day, and it was lovely and warm, which it was very unusual. So the kids wanted to make the most of it. They wanted to be outside, and so that's what they did. They decided to go over to an abandoned grocery store car park, which I believe was a Winn-Dixie. And it had all these ramps and things which would be perfect for going along a bike on. By all accounts, it was a place where a lot of kids from the neighbourhood would go. They would go and play, and it was just a normal spot for kids to be in. It was just behind the grandparents' house as well, so it wasn't too far away. Like they said, parents didn't want it to go far, and so they decided that that wasn't far away and they would go there. So they went out. They got to the car park, and not long after, Ricky decided that he wanted to go back. He was only 5. He may have got fed up, I don't know, but he decided that he was going to go back, and that would leave Amber alone for a few minutes. And she was alone for just a couple of minutes before she was abducted. From the moment she left her grandparents' house, it would take a total of 8 minutes for Amber to have just vanished, which is awful. 8 minutes. She was around the corner from her grandparents' house. She was gone for 8 minutes, and then somebody had kidnapped her. A neighbour called Jimmy Kevill, who was in the back garden at the time, heard screaming. So he looks over, he sees this dark pickup truck has pulled up. This person gets out behind Amber, yanks her straight off her bike. She's kicking, she's screaming, she's trying to fight this person off. But obviously she's only 9 and she's so small. She didn't really stand a chance. So this person bundles her into the pickup truck and then drives away. He said it looked black or a very dark blue in colour. Jimmy had actually seen Amber playing there alone, so he knew she was there, he knew who it was, and he literally witnessed the entire thing. He literally witnessed a little girl being kidnapped right before his eyes, and he was quite an elderly man. He was in his garden, and he wouldn't have been able to do anything about it, just stand there and watch, and that must have been terrible for him. Of course, he contacted the police straight away, and Ricky had gone home, as I said. So when Ricky arrived home alone, her parents and grandparents was wondering where Amber was. So he would have told them that he left her there alone. So they went out to go and get her. Probably didn't like the thought of her being alone. And when they got there, all they found was Amber's pink and white bicycle. And police officers had already arrived at the Winn-Dixie in response to Jimmy's 911 call.
Somebody kidnapped Amber. He's gone, Richard.
Her last words that I heard from her is, "Okay, Mommy, I will. I love you, Mommy."
Police stated that it was believed that the truck was a 1980s or 1990s full-sized fleet side pickup with a short wheelbase and a non-sliding clear window. Police began the investigation, and it was put out to the media what had happened to Amber.
Don't hurt my baby, please. She's just an innocent child, please.
The FBI were brought in straight away. Everyone was searching for this little girl. As I said, Jimmy was a witness, so he was able to give them a description of the perpetrator. He described the kidnapper as being a Hispanic male, aged between 25 and 40, at around 6 feet tall, with a medium build. Footage that had actually been recorded previously of Amber for this TV show, I believe, on her mother and things like that, about benefits, was released to the public to put a face out there to show everyone that this little girl was missing, to hopefully lead to some information to a safe discovery.
Look, Mom, I made this for you.
Thank you. That's pretty. Dear Mom, this is for you that I made at school. I love.
The local community were all out in force, as well as family, friends, officers. They were all looking for Amber everywhere. But even with the search being in full force, searching everywhere with so many people, they couldn't find her. In the days after Amber's abduction, more than 50 police officers and FBI agents worked to bring the third grader back home to her family. Their hopes were dashed though when a girl's naked body was spotted near a drainage culvert in a creek bed behind an apartment complex. A man who was out walking his dog had come across Amber's body just 4 days after she'd gone missing. He went running to the people in the apartment block, shouting, stating that he thinks that he'd found the missing little girl. The body of the missing little girl, should I say. She was found just 5 miles away from where she had been taken, and she was on kind of a creek bank, and her throat had been slashed. Police said that at the time, maintenance workers that were working on the apartments had actually been working near and around the creek just hours before Amber's body was discovered, and her body was not there at the time, so it was presumed that it had been dumped there sort of quite recently. The Times actually reported that a rainstorm had caused this rapid rise in the waters, which may have carried her body to where it was found, so that's also a plausible thing. The authorities did really believe that it was Amber's body, but of course you have to get it confirmed, and so the family just had this excruciating wait to find out whether that was their little girl, whether their hopes had just vanished of finding her alive. And it must have been awful. When the news came through, yes, in fact, it was Amber's body. It was just totally heartbreaking and totally devastating.
Just waiting for her to come in the door any minute now. But she's gone.
Amber's body was sent for autopsy, and that's when they discovered that the kidnapper, the person that had taken her, had kept her alive for 2 days. And that she was subjected to absolutely horrific things. She had been beaten and sexually assaulted before she was murdered. Unfortunately, the police were not able to get much forensic evidence of her body because, as I said, there'd been a rainstorm, it had rained and things the night before, she'd been in the creek, and so most of anything that would have been on her body was all washed away. She was also found naked. She had one sock on. One sock, that was it. So there was no clothes or anything to get any fibres off. Nothing like that. Police believed that the kidnapper was an opportunist, meaning that it wasn't really a planned attack. As I said, it was a well-known place for kids to be hanging around and playing in, and this person may have known that, so they may have been local. They may have known that kids would often go there, and at the time, Amber was alone, and they just took the opportunity and took her. But unfortunately, that left the police with very little information on who could have done it. They had not really any forensic evidence, and it would lead to Amber's case eventually going cold. Police have continued to try and find information on Amber's case, and I've actually looked into over 8,000 leads. Again, it led to no promising information to solve this case. Police do continue to hold out hope that eventually Amber's case may be solved. There was a laundromat apparently next to the Winn-Dixie in 1996, and detectives believe that the potential witnesses that may have seen something, when they were questioned at the time, were just too frightened to say anything because a lot of them were Hispanic and were probably worried about deportation, and so they just didn't say anything. I really do think there's someone out there that knows something. If any information on this case ever gets put forward towards you, please just let the police know about it, because this little girl lost her life and somebody needs to serve justice for that. There was a census done in the year 2000, which put to light just under a fifth of Arlington's 330,000 residents were Hispanic. Amber's parents just really need closure. Their daughter was brutally beaten and taken away from them, and they just don't know who did it or why. After Amber's abduction, the Amber Alert program was brought into play, which many of you will have heard of, I assume. But as I said, it actually all started with Amber's mum. She began contacting media outlets and asking them why they were serving warnings of severe weather and not talking about her missing 9-year-old little girl. Obviously, the more people hear about it, the more it gets out there in the media and the news and anything like that, the more public eyes are watching out to spot her. Maybe they take her to a grocery store. Maybe, I don't know, they take her somewhere and someone spots them. And if they know that they're looking out for this missing little girl, they see them, they bring the police. So she was really, really concerned as to why, as I said, they were issuing weather warnings and not abduction warnings. And that's what it all stemmed from. She got loads of people behind, sort of backing her idea, and it just blew up. Donna's ideas put together eventually led to the Amber Alert being created by Amber's family. The community officials had some input towards it, people backed her thoroughly, and it was created and it was implemented. It was established as America's missing broadcast emergency response alert system. Obviously, the Amber Alert. And it was in Amber's honor. Nowadays, when a child's abducted, law enforcement sends out an alert to radios and television stations. They send it to the Department of Transportation, lottery systems, and the NCMEC. The center then sends out alerts to the wider audience, to the public, and it gets everyone looking for this missing child. The Amber Alert has been an absolutely huge success, and it's been able to help thousands of kids be reunited with their parents after being abducted. It just gets important details, sometimes describing the child, describing the abductor, the car that they've taken them in, things like that, out to the public so that everyone can keep their eye out and information can be sent in, and then hopefully they can catch this person. And it really, really works. It truly does. Donna has referred to the program as bittersweet, which I totally understand. If this system may have been in place before Amber's abduction, then maybe, it's not certain, but maybe someone would have seen something and maybe they would have got her back safely. At the same time, she's really, really elated that, yes, okay, it couldn't help her daughter, but she's created something in her daughter's memory that has helped so many more children and will continue to help so many more children, even though, unfortunately, her daughter was not one of them. But this is now her legacy. Amber's name will live on forever. And I think the Amber system is just truly amazing. And how strong Donna must have been to create something like that. Her daughter was missing. She's ringing up these radio stations telling them that they should be reporting it. She was so strong, and even after her daughter was killed, she still pushed for it. She still wanted this to be made and created to help others. And that is just so much strength to me. She was grieving so much for her daughter's loss, and yet she still carried on. She carried on pushing, and it's benefited so many people. In the aftermath of Amber's 1996 murder, Dallas-Fort Worth partnered with law enforcement, developed the system, and in 1998, an 8-week-old Arlington infant, Ray Lee Bradbury, became the first child rescued as a result of the Amber Alert. She'd actually been kidnapped by a babysitter and was found 90 minutes after the alert went out. In 2017, Ray Lee started college at the University of Texas, so without this alert, who knows what could have happened to her. She may have never seen her family again, she may have lost her life, we just don't know. And this system helped her. This system potentially saved her. A couple of weeks ago, it was 25 years to the day that Amber was taken. Police in Arlington renewed their pleas for the public about who took this little girl and why. A new dedicated tip line was made for any information on Amber's case. Oak Farms Dairy continues to offer a $10,000 reward for any information leading to an arrest. Sergeant Ben Lopez, who was an original team member of the task force when she was taken, stated in the 13th of January conference, "All this time we've only had one witness. That's why we're pleading. If there's anyone out there with any information, even if they think it's just a small bit of information, it may be the lead. We need to break this." Also during this conference, authorities for the first time ever disclosed that they actually have DNA evidence in this case. As new DNA technology improves and comes out, including the genetic genealogy, increasingly helping law enforcement finally close open cases that have been cold for so many years, where the DNA has been stored away. They had that person, they just didn't have any reference to the DNA anywhere else, they couldn't match it. And cases such as the Golden State Killer, where they had this person's DNA, but they had no way of matching it. They used the genetic genealogy and they found him. And so it gives hope to these cases that have been cold for years, where you think they're never going to be solved. They may have the DNA stored away. It just brings a new hope to them. And maybe this DNA that they did have, that they've had all this time stored away in Amber's case, maybe one day we'll get a match and finally her killer will be caught. Detective Grant Gilden, who is the lead investigator on the cold case, wouldn't actually say what physical evidence the department has, but he just said that only the killer knows. The evidence has been secured and maintained for 25 years now, and we're really hoping that one day it could prove to be a vital lead. If anyone has any information on Amber's case, please contact the police. There's a reward out for any information leading to an arrest, and if you want to remain anonymous, there's also an anonymous line you can call with Tarrant County Crime Stoppers. I'll put the number on screen for that as well, for anyone that thinks they might know something of importance. This case was just so tragic. She went out with her brother to play around the corner on a new bike. She was gone 8 minutes before she was ripped from her life, brutally beaten and murdered. Her life was stolen away and it still remains unsolved. We still don't know who did it. Her family still have not had any justice for it whatsoever. And this person is still out there. Maybe they are still out there. A lot can happen in 25 years. This person may have passed away. Hopefully we do find DNA connecting this case together, and if this person is possibly still alive, that one day they can serve justice for what they did, because they took a beautiful little innocent girl's life, and for 25 years they've been allowed to roam free. As I said, if they are still alive, because who knows. It's really hitting a new age for all these cold cases with this DNA tracking and genealogy. And I truly hope that many more cases are solved from it, along with Amber's, and that one day all the victims of these kind of crimes will get justice.
I'm not gonna give up on her. Never.
Yeah?
But yeah, that's the end of the case. If you guys have any suggestions, let me know and I'll look into them for you. Give me a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you've enjoyed this video or would like to watch some of similar content. Anyway guys, that's all I have today on the case of Amber Hagerman. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.